series of the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs. My name is Stephanie Schmatz, and I work as an Associate Drug Control and Crime Prevention Officer within the UNODC Laboratory and Scientific Service. We are pleased to welcome you to this session within the Ask the Expert Live series, and this time on Precursors, featured by our collaborating partner, the Secretariat of the International Narcotics Control Board. These sessions are held each month, and each session will cover a different thematic area related to synthetic drugs that is aligned with the Toolkit modules. The Ask the Expert Live series provides a rare opportunity for Toolkit users from around the world to consult directly with substantive experts from across the UN system, and today with the Secretariat of the International Narcotics Control Board, and to get real-time answers to technical questions. Through this activity, we are empowering our Toolkit users to maximize the utility of the practical resources that are referenced within the Toolkit. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all participants for joining today, as well as our guest experts of this session, Mr. Rajesh Srivastava and Ms. Marketa, Jackova. Before I will turn it over to the subject matter experts of today's session, I will start with a brief introduction of the Toolkit. Synthetic drugs and its precursors are posing a global challenge to public health systems, law enforcement operations, criminal justice systems, as well as legislative responses to control those substances. This very complex and ever-changing and growing problem, as it manifests all around the world, is challenging global, regional, and national strategies and responses. The more important it is to address this complex and evolving issue in an integrated manner. Through two resolutions, the Commission on Narcotic Drugs called on UNODC, WHO, and INCB to take action in enhancing and strengthening international and regional cooperation and domestic efforts to address the international threats posed by the non-medical use of synthetic opioids. And as a response, in 2018, the UNODC Opioid Strategy was developed, which is now coordinated by Ms. Asma Fakhri, Program Manager within the UNODC Laboratory and Scientific Service. The UNODC Opioid Strategy provides a framework for action for comprehensive and integrated responses that is built on 5 pillars. It brings together a wide range of expertise from UNODC and from across the UN system through collaboration with key interagency partners such as the INCB and WHO, to leverage a unique set of complementary activities and programs and their specialized expertise to support countries to build capacity to predict, prevent, and protect against the challenges posed by synthetic drugs, including synthetic opioids. And recognizing the need of practical ways on how to respond to such a complex issue as a growing synthetic drugs problem, and to further support countries with the implementation, the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs has been developed in collaboration with WHO and INCB and was set up in 2019. As you already know, the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs is an online platform which houses a wide range, currently 290 cross-cutting resources and tools that help countries with the practical implementation of the guidance provided in the strategy. Before the UN Toolkit was established, there were many different services and resources all addressing the synthetic drugs problem, but very scattered across multiple UN agencies. And there was no coordinated UN approach for member states to access information about the various aspects related to synthetic drugs. So imagine you as a member state are looking to address various fields challenged by synthetic drugs. You would need to consult numerous organizations and programs to find the necessary information. And you would need to know already what it is you're exactly looking for, and most importantly, where to find this piece of information. So for instance, countries needed to refer to INCB about chemicals used in illicit drug manufacture, to WHO about access to controlled medicines, and UNODC about forensic analysis methods for drug testing. But for countries, all these topics are part of the same complex problem, synthetic drugs. So the toolkit gathers all those different cross-cutting tools and resources from across the UN family and covers multiple areas of expertise, all in one place, in one single platform, and serves as a one-stop shop offering practical tools to help member states to identify solutions. I would now like to show you a short video that summarizes what I was just presenting, and I will provide you a little bit more detail after. I am now going to do a little walkthrough the Toolkit website for everyone who is not familiar with the Toolkit yet. The Toolkit was developed with the generous support of US State INL and Canada, and its availability in other languages was supported by the Russian Federation for the Russian version of the Toolkit. And OAS CCAT collaborated with us on the Spanish version of the Toolkit. And we just recently launched the Chinese version of the Toolkit, thanks to the support of the Forensic Science Institute in Beijing, China. We are also currently working on the French translation of the Toolkit that will be launched by the end of the year, thanks to the support of Canada. And we are also currently looking for a partner to support on the Arabic version of the Toolkit to make it available in all UN languages. The global synthetic drugs problem is multifaceted and it is constantly evolving, and so is the Toolkit. So we are adding new areas of responses on a continuous basis, and new modules are in development, such as prevention, advanced investigative techniques, and air cargo security. The Toolkit is divided into different modules, and each module covers a different thematic area related to synthetic drugs. And today we will focus on Precursors that was developed in collaboration with INCB. One of our Toolkit's features is the Ask the Expert feature that allows users to send their specific question to a specialist. So you can fill in this form and your question on a particular topic or area, and the opioid strategy will direct your question to the subject matter experts. And building on this feature, we are holding the expert consultation series and bringing this feature to life, so to say, where participants have the opportunity to put their questions directly to the experts and bring Toolkit users closer to the interagency expertise that is housed within the Toolkit. In case you have missed one of the previous sessions, you can also listen to the recordings, which are under the highlights section. Since its launch, the Toolkit has been accessed by more than 11,600 users in more than 180 countries. And the module on precursors, which was relaunched in September 2020, includes currently 42 INCB resources and tools and is available in 3 languages and has been accessed by 1,096 registered users from 170 countries. And today we are delighted to host our expert consultation session on precursors. I will now turn it over to our guest experts, Mr. Rajesh, Srivastava, and Ms. Marketa, Jackova from the Precursors Control section of the Secretariat of the INCB, who are here with us today to present the Toolkit module on precursors. Mr. Rajesh is Precursors expert and joined the Precursors section of the Secretariat of the International Narcotics Control Board in August 2020 on secondment from the Government of India. He was an officer of the Indian Customs and worked for a long time in different agencies dealing with drug law enforcement in India, including policy making in the relevant ministry. And Ms. Marketa Jackova is a drug control officer and has joined the Precursors Control section of the Secretariat of INCB in 2013. Before, she worked in the European Commission in the precursor sector of the Secretariat General of Taxation and Customs Union in Brussels. Her work experience also includes working at the UNHCR in Prague and at the Customs Administration of the Czech Republic. We will now start with a brief live demo of the module on precursors, followed by an open question and answer session. Some questions have already been submitted in advance through our Ask the Expert form on the website, and you are invited to post your questions anytime in the chat, and our experts will answer to them in the following question and answer session. Thank you very much for being with us today, Rajesh and Marketa, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And we, both of us, are delighted to be part of this Ask the Expert series, which is presenting the UN Toolkit. So good morning to our participants from the Western Hemisphere. Good evening from those that have connected from the same time zone as ours in Vienna. Marketa and I will try and walk you through the precursors part of the UN Toolkit, and then take any questions that you might want to raise to us. So Marketa, over to you for the initial part.
Thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, Stephanie, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It is really our pleasure to be here today, and we very much welcome having the opportunity to present the precursors module of the UN Toolkit on synthetic drugs. So today's topic is dedicated to precursors. In Stephanie's presentation, there was our quote card with the quote, "No precursors equals no drugs." This would be actually a key or the solution to curbing the manufacture of synthetic and semi-synthetic drugs in an ideal world. However, as we all know, in reality, it is not that easy or that simple. Those precursors are used for the illicit manufacture of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, but they have also wide legitimate applications and uses, which means that they cannot be easily prohibited. So it is about keeping or finding a balance between ensuring their availability for illicit purposes and at the same time preventing them from being diverted into illicit channels. And these are some of the principles of the 1988 Convention. Now, let me share my screen so that Rajesh and I can take you through the precursors module of the toolkit. Could you please confirm that you see it well? Yes, thank you.
Marketa, it's fine, yeah.
So we are going to show you some of the available tools and resources that are included in this module and are relevant to precursor control. But we would also like to encourage you to go to the module itself and explore it in more details. I would like to say that this module also includes links to information, tools, and materials that are publicly available, most of those. So without any restrictions, anyone can access them. But some of the links are restricted only to the competent national authorities. So you would need a password. So if you're from the competent national authority and you wish to have an access, please send us an email to incb.precursors at un.org, and we will provide you with the login credentials. So this is what you see here is the landing page of the Precursor module. On the right-hand side, you see the different sections and subsections. The first one relates to the International Precursors Control System. Let me go in it. So here you can find the main elements that actually constitute the International Precursors Control System and the roles and functions of INCB, which I would also like to briefly mention now. So what is INCB? INCB is an independent UN body that ensures that adequate supplies of drugs and chemicals are available for legitimate purposes and that the diversion of illegitimate purposes does not occur. INCB consists of 13 members that are elected by ECOSOC, and they serve in their personal capacity and not as government representatives. And the Secretariat of the board is based in Vienna. The diagram here lists the main functions of the board in relation to precursors. As you see here, the International Precursor System is grounded in Article 12 of the 1988 Convention. And under the treaty, INCB's role is to monitor the international trade in precursors. It also supports governments in the area of precursor-related investigations. It also provides platforms and forums for intelligence sharing on precursors-related incidents in real time. And INCB also assesses chemicals for international control. On this page, below the diagram, you will have some additional resources, links. The first one is the main website of the INCB on precursors. The second one would take you to the details on the legislation and control measures. There is also a compilation of all relevant resolution with respect to Article 12 of the 1988 Convention. The third link I wanted to show you brings you to the INCB website on tools and kits. The first one is the password protected link, and the other resources are available to anyone. So here you will find a lot of useful information that hopefully will be useful for your everyday work in this area. Now going back. The second subsection contains information related to procedure for placing a chemical under international control. Here you can see the entire process at a glance. As regards the 1988 Convention, the initiator of the process is either the state party or INCB. And the role of INCB is to make an assessment, of course, taking into account the importance, the extent and diversity of the illicit trade of the substance in question, and INCB then provides recommendations to CND. At the end, it is the CND that decides whether or not a substance should be added, transferred, or removed from Table 1 or Table 2 of the 1988 Convention. The next section of the toolkit relates to chemicals under control, which are used in the illicit drug manufacture. So here you will find the 30 chemicals that are currently under international control that are listed in Table 1 and Table 2 of the 1988 Convention, including their synonyms, CAS numbers, HS codes, and there is also a multilingual dictionary, which might be very useful. You will also find here information about chemicals that are not internationally scheduled, but are still known to be frequently used in the illicit drug manufacture. As you know, the emergence of non-scheduled and designer precursors is among the top challenges that the international community has been facing in recent years. So in this context, there are a number of useful resources that provide more details. There is this thematic chapter of the INCB report on precursors from 2018, and a conference room paper that includes various options to address this issue of non-scheduled and designer precursors. In addition, you will find some useful information that are available for competent national authorities, including the International Special Surveillance List, which includes the non-scheduled substances of international relevance. There is also a link to the document that contains information on what chemicals are under national control in different countries. So for example, let's say you need to know if a substance, let's say methylamine, is under national control in Mexico, and whether individual import or export authorization is required. This is the place you would go and find this piece of information. All of this is available on the restricted webpage of INCB. So once again, we would like to encourage you to get the access if you don't have one yet. Another interesting source I would like to mention here, and which you may wish to consult, is a publication that was issued last year. And it's a document that contains more than 95 chemicals, including their synonyms, description, legitimate and illicit applications, and much more. And this publication is called Precursor Chemical Monographs 2020. Now, moving on to the illicit trade monitoring side. So the illicit trade monitoring is done on a real-time basis through the so-called pre-export notification online, PEN online. The system ensures that the authorities of importing country are informed of planned shipments of substances in Table 2, in Table 1 that are destined for that country, and Table 2, of course. The notification gives also the authority of the importing country a possibility to check and ensure the legitimacy of each transaction, including the legitimacy of the companies involved and the intended end uses of the substance or of the substances. It is important to know, and that's why this is a very useful tool, what are the normal patterns of illicit trade, so that we are able to identify the unusual patterns or any suspicions in the illicit international trade. Currently, we have 166 countries registered with the system. Here, I would also like to mention that by invoking Article 1210A of the Convention, governments of the importing countries can make it mandatory for governments for exporting countries to inform them of planned exports of precursors. And to request these notifications, you would have to complete and submit 2 forms, which are available here on this under this link. It's Form A, Form B, and there is a very clear guidance on how to proceed, where to submit these forms, and so on. So again, we would like to invite you to visit this website for more details. Let's go back. Another important element for monitoring illicit trade are the estimates of the annual legitimate requirements. Here you have the web page that is dedicated only to that subject. The ALRs provide an indication on how much of a substance a country needs to import for legitimate purposes. Here you can find some useful resources that you can consult when you're establishing the ALRs. These include the INCB WHO guidelines. There's also compilations of issues that governments may consider when determining those estimates on ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. And there is also a very interesting and interactive e-learning course that we would encourage you to take. The last link, as you see on the page, is actually the link which brings you to a place where all these ALRs are available to governments. I can quickly show you. So this is the INCB website. Here you have the latest available data, which means those are the latest available data as communicated to us from the government. Here on the top, you see that the last update was on the 7th of October. And on the second link below here, you have the date of the last update. That's another very important element. This tool is only useful if the figures are really up to date, and only then it makes sense. So here you see when the respective figures have been updated for the last time. And if you have any questions or you don't find any recent estimates, please contact us and we will be able to provide you with more guidance and information on this. Now, moving on to the last part, which is on the role of the industry and public-private partnerships in preventing diversion of precursors. The cooperation with industry has actually come to play an increasingly significant role in global precursor control, and is one of the top themes that have been widely recognized and emphasized in recent years as critical to precursors control. It is an effective as well as sustainable concept to address some of the recent challenges, including non-scheduled chemicals, designer precursors, but also diversion from domestic distribution channels, and as well as misuse of equipment, for example. So these are all the areas that the cooperation industry provides us a very proactive approach to the problem. In 2015, there was a thematic chapter dedicated to this topic, so you have also the link there. And also INCB to assist governments in this area to establish and implement this concept. We have issued a number of guidance materials, and that includes the guidelines for voluntary code of practice. We have also the practical notes for implementing those guidelines, where you will find more concrete examples on what steps to take and really how the concept is working in practice. There's also an MOU, a model MOU that you as a government could take and possibly adjust to your own national needs. And then there is also a link to the INCB public-private partnership website, as well as brochure that contains the main elements, again, underlying this concept. This was in a nutshell all from my side, and Rajesh will take you through the remaining sections of the module, and we will be happy to answer any questions you may have. After that, if we don't have time to answer all of your questions, please feel free to send them to us after the session and we will get back to you. So with this, thank you very much for now, and over to you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Marketa, and I'll attempt to share my screen now, and you will kindly confirm if you actually see it.
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. So this is just the perfect point that Marketa has left me with. She's been talking about the first three aspects of the toolkit, which basically relates to the legitimate usage, the scheduling of substances for international control, and how the INCB supports all of that. But the other part you see is equally important. The INCB, apart from making sure that the precursors are available for legitimate industrial or pharmaceutical purposes, makes it also a point to support countries to inform them of suspicious shipments of precursors, such that they can be prevented from being diverted into illicit channels. And so the toolkit also offers a number of resources for supporting the operational parts of prevention and investigation of precursor cases. So if you click on the first one, you would land up to the two major international projects that the INCB has. One is called the Project PRISM, which is for synthetic drug precursors, so amphetamine, methamphetamine, the fentanyl precursors. The other one is called Project Cohesion, which is for cocaine and heroin precursors, so potassium permanganate, acetic acid, acetic anhydride, acetyl chloride, the like. And these are the two international initiatives for which there are focal points established all across the world. And the INCB, the Secretariat, supports these focal points by pushing to them suitable alerts regarding emergence of new substances, new modi operandi, so on and so forth. Uh, uh, this is a network which is really effective, and the INCB also supports this project's PRISM and cohesion through regular task force meetings. Select number of countries are members of the task force of the project PRISM and cohesion, and in these meetings the latest trends are analyzed and international operations also discussed. One way in which the INCB actually reaches out to the focal points with the latest alerts is this system of the Precursors incident communication system. It's an online intelligence sharing platform, and I'm really happy to share with all of you here that only as recently as last week we had an upgrade of the PIC system. The system was launched in 2013. It has over 3,500 incidents till now, and a number, hundreds of government agencies that are enrolled in it. But the new PIC system, we feel, offers far more user friendliness and offers also the opportunity for better backtracking investigations, as well as the need also to even exchange information on suspicious orders. So that's one thing that the new PICS does have. Apart from seizures and confiscations, if some focal point has a suspicious order, that can also be entered into the PIC system, and it can be then selectively shared with the country for which the information remains relevant. So that is a feature which the PICS has, the new PICS has. Also, it has details for sharing of incidents or suspicious shipments for equipment which is likely to be used in illicit drug manufacture. And again, this was something which was not available earlier. The third unique feature for the PICS is that it does not limit itself to only the scheduled table 1 and table 2 substances. There are only 30 of them internationally, but as Marketa mentioned, we know of so many more that are used for illicit drug manufacture. And a part of that is covered under the International Special Surveillance List, which Marketa referred, and you saw a glimpse of that in the toolkit. So the PICS actually has the ability to capture all cases, even of non-scheduled chemicals. So while we have 30 substances internationally controlled, the PICS actually has over 300 substances, so which really means that a large number of non-scheduled substances, information relating to the same, can also be shared through PICS. The other resource that we have is this two directories that are brought out, and this is the focal point network. This is obviously restricted to the competent national authorities, so it's password protected. But should you wish to be part of it, the focal point network, or if you want access to this directory, and if you are a competent national authority, I mean, you can reach out to us directly or to the competent national authority of your country only, and you will have access to all the focal points, and that would enable direct exchange of information that you might have with the corresponding focal point in the relevant country. This is a directory of the competent national authorities under the all the 3 UN treaties, and this is publicly available. So this is also for Article 12 of the 88 Convention, and you can go and scroll through and see which countries' competent authorities that you are interested in. Apart from that, there is every year in the Precursors report, we have a special supplement, and a couple of supplements here that relate to the operational aspects of Precursors investigations are mentioned here. One is the information on the role of internet, which we had in 2017, this special chapter. Internet, as you would be aware, is a very friendly ally of precursor chemicals because of the fact that they are dual use in nature. So, somebody that lists the precursor chemicals on the internet, even on the surface net, does not risk law enforcement action, because you cannot, by the sheer fact of listing itself, allege that this listing has illicit designs. So, but for sure, we have had incidents of, investigation of listing of precursor chemicals on the surface net that have led to successful interdiction. So that is something that we've been speaking about also very much recently. If you want to know the latest trends in precursor trafficking, actually the go-to resource for that is the report of the INCB every year in compliance with the requirement of Article 12 of the 88 Convention. And this is brought out in obviously in all UN languages. It's leads you to our website, the INCB's website, and there you'll find the link for the precursors report in all languages. And really, this is something that if one has to, we would recommend very strongly if one has to know not only about the international trade in control precursors, but also about the trends in trafficking. This is perhaps the best compilation that we come out with. And why we say that is the fact, it is based on reports that we get from all countries that have been submitted on a mandatory or voluntary basis by countries to the INCB. We have a particular form called Form D in which information is reported, and that's centralized, entered into a central database here, and we link it up with information that we also get from the Pen Online, which Marketa mentioned to you about, as also information that comes through to us, which is shared voluntary through the PICS system. So a summary, a gist of all of that is contained in the annual report on precursors, and so therefore we believe that it is a very useful material to rely on if one is looking for the latest trends in trafficking. In terms of other useful resources, there is thematic chapters that we have every year, and as I mentioned, in 2017 we had the thematic chapter on precursors. In 2018, this latest and the most current challenge that the international community is facing with respect to precursors, and that is the emergence of non-scheduled chemicals or designer precursors. So there was a thematic chapter here, and Marketa also mentioned about the conference room paper, which is also publicly available. So in 2019, a special supplement on Article 13. So if you notice, Article 13 speaks about material and equipment which is used for illicit drug manufacture. So that is something, which is also often not given the same amount of emphasis by competent authorities as they would for controlled precursors. But we do believe that, an appropriate focus on these activities would also lead to good interdiction of precursor cases as well as prevention of diversion. So these are very useful reference points, these thematic chapters that we have. I think that is all from my side, and with that, we would be happy to take the questions that you might want to pose to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rajesh and Marketa, for this excellent and very comprehensive overview of the module and to showcase the wealth of its practical tools and resources when it comes to precursors control. So thank you very much. I would now like to open the floor to questions, and we are kindly inviting you to post your questions in the chat. And as I mentioned, we also received questions already in advance through the Ask the Expert form. So Rajesh and Marketa, I will hand the first question over to you. How can I start up a precursors monitoring system in my country?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for this question. I'll take that one. This is actually a question that we get very often, and it is actually a topic that we could discuss for a very long time in details. So let me just try to highlight some of the main elements that we think are important in this aspect. So at first, we would, of course, encourage you to check the mandatory provisions of the 1988 Convention, specifically the provisions of Article 12. In order also to start the precursors monitoring system in a country, you would need to assign a competent national authority in the context of this article. Then you should register with the available platforms that INCB has to assist governments, which includes the Pen Online system. Once you do that, you should also invoke Article 12, paragraph 10A of the 1988 Convention, as I have mentioned before. so that you are informed about shipments of precursors that are coming to your country, which is very important. Once you do that, you should start mapping the industry environment, or let's say the industry landscape, to really have an idea of the size and the nature of the industries that operate in your country and are relevant to precursor control. And here I mean not only the chemical industry in a strict sense, but all the relevant industries along the distribution chain. Because as we all know, the distribution can and does happen at any stage of that distribution chain. Now, I would say once you know the environment, the industry environment and the players, I mean, without knowing the environment and the players, it would be very challenging or very difficult to comply actually with the 1988 convention and to prevent diversion of precursors. So that is very important. And once you know the industry environment or the industry landscape, you should be able to establish the annual legitimate requirements, which is actually done in cooperation or in consultation with industry. And you should communicate those to INCB. And once you do that, you should, of course, fill in the Form D, which Rajesh has already mentioned, which is the mandatory element of Article 12, and submit it to INCB by 30th June each year. And also, you should register with the INCB SPICs. Rajesh has mentioned the details. Basically, it's important to know what incidents are reported around the world, and some of them might be relevant to your country. So I hope that answered this question. I don't know if Rajesh wishes to add some more elements to this, but once again, thank you for this very important question. We get this a lot, and should you be interested in receiving more details on this, please don't hesitate to send us an email after this session. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Marketa. That is as excellent a summary that I can think of. You know, this is something that we can speak at length over in a separate session, but you produced a very nice capsule for this. I have nothing more to add at this juncture. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. So there will be a question on how UNODC plays its role in India for precursor control. So I would say, since we have the INCB experts here with us today, speaking to us about precursors control, we'll perhaps turn this question over to you, Rajesh, who is very familiar with the precursors control mechanism in India.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I answer this more from my knowledge of my working in India, as also my working in partnership with UNODC in the time that I was there in India. So the UNODC Regional Office for South Asia actually runs a project for capacity building of drug law enforcement officers for the country in the region. That is handsomely supported by the government of India. And one critical part of this particular project is the capacity building on the aspect of precursor control. So, I mean, unless the things have changed drastically from the time that I left, I think they still carry out, trainings of officers with regard to precursor control in India, as indeed for other operational activities, and the UNODC also exchanges information, notes, participates in meetings of the government of India. And precursor control is an extremely significant part of India's drug control activities, because India is a major producer of chemicals and pharmaceuticals in the world, and so therefore it has a very high priority for the drug law enforcement work in India, and UNODC has been supporting all the work that the government of India has initiated. But again, perhaps the local UNODC officers would be better placed to answer the most updated version of the developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. In service of time, maybe we can take one last question. Does INCB have information about the legitimate needs for precursor chemicals in different countries?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for this question. I will take up this one since I have covered this partially in the presentation of the toolkit. So let me share my screen with all of you.